Tim Trudell from OUC. Great to see you again. Thank you for signing on for hurricane season for another year with News 6.
Of course.
So let's just start by talking about, wow, last year was busy. Central Florida was spared, but that really didn't make a difference for you guys. You deployed an unprecedented number of crews. So how are you guys preparing for this year?
We prepare year round. And yet last year was very interesting in the sense that, yes, we had an unprecedented number of deployments throughout the hurricane season starting in August. So it was very, very busy. But we had a lot of experience dealing with storms in the COVID environment, which is very helpful, helps prepare us all the time. But yes, we're preparing year round. Last year at this time was very interesting in the sense that we were 2 months into a pandemic, and we're trying to figure out how to do that safely, because even in the middle of a pandemic, people still need power. So we've got to continue to respond quickly, but also safely. So we worked through a lot of those things throughout the last year. We just did a commission-wide hurricane drill, an all-day drill, practicing our response among the different departments throughout the organization. It is a role that we take very seriously as a public utility. We want to make sure that we're out there helping our customers through the storm, preparing all of the time, and making sure our customers know that they need to prepare too.
So what can your customers do? You guys have done your part to prepare. What can they do to help themselves and help you guys?
So the biggest thing that customers can do is take hurricane season seriously. Think about what your family would do if you did lose power. Come up with a storm plan. Log on to ouc.com/storm center. It will tell you exactly how to do that. It will give you information about what to do before a storm, during a storm, and after a storm. There's some great technology that's out there the last couple of years. Our customers can text us. They can text out to 69682, which is my OUC. And they can get outage information on their cell phone, which is where they'd like to see it. So we're continuing to provide as much information as possible, but during a storm. But right now, think about things you can do around your house, or things that you maybe need to do in the future. What are you going to do without power for a couple of days? Because if we did have a Category 4 or 5 storm, we are inevitably going to have widespread power outages. So you need to take that seriously. We have a very transient population in the sense that a lot of people come and go throughout Orlando. So maybe people weren't here for even Hurricane Irma in 2017, where 60% of OUC customers lost power. Now, we were able to get that power back within a week, but that was a very, very large scale storm. So we do need to take it very seriously. We will respond quickly. And we'll do it safely. But again, we are still working within the COVID environment. So things are taking a little bit longer than they used to in the past.
How has that changed since last year? Because I know last year you guys, you had to split up your crews. We were social distancing. Now with vaccines in the mix, has that helped you guys get back to normal a little bit?
To some extent. I mean, we certainly have a lot more experience dealing with it. I think the public understands what we've been dealing with for a long time. There's a lot of people that are out there working from home that have been for a long time, but a good part of our workforce has never been able to do that. These crews have got to be in the field, on the job all the time. And yes, they have more experience dealing with it. Yes, there are a larger percentage of the population that's vaccinated, but we still have COVID out there, and that is something that we're dealing with. So we're mindful of it. At the same time, we have a job to do, and we do take that very seriously, and we will get power restored as quickly as we can.
You guys are like news, when the world stops for everyone else, we still rely on you. So thank you for what you do. Now I want to go back to preparing. You talked about things you can do around our house. What are some of those things?
Well, again, the biggest thing is come up with a plan. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? There's some basic stuff. If you have a house with a yard, any of those things in the yard can become projectiles. So that's a very common thing where people leave things in the yard, they become projectiles. People have been hurt by those, or they can end up with power lines for that matter. So there's, a number of things that you can do. It's just sitting down and thinking about, okay, if this actually happens, how are we going to handle it within our own home? Where are we going to go? What medications do we need to have? Who are our contacts? How are we going to, get our information when we lose power? Because it could happen. So there's a checklist that you can follow, and I push you to the website oec.com/storm center to follow that. But again, I think the biggest thing you can do is just take a moment, talk to everybody in your family and say, if this happens, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to handle it. If you do it now, when it's a low stress time compared to a very high stress time, if you can think back, if you were here during Hurricane Irma, you lost power, the temperatures are like today, that's a very difficult time. It feels like there's a lot going on at the same time. You may have some damage to your home. You're trying to find a contractor. There's a list of preferred contractors. There's things like that that you can have handy so that if you do need to take that step, if there's insurance claims that need to be filed, sometimes it's just taking digital pictures around the house and preparing all of those things now. This is not a moment to like get upset and antsy and say, oh my goodness, the storm is it's just being smart and safe and taking a moment to say, let's really evaluate where we are and what we can do so that if it does happen, we're ready to go.
And taking that time now so that, like you said, if it does happen and when it does happen, you're not panicking.
Yep, you got a lot more. The preparation. Like I said, we have a job to do. We're going to prepare year round. We just ask our customers to prepare. This is the start of hurricane season. It's a great opportunity to really think about, some of the things, because things might have changed year to year too. You may have different people in your home. You may have a different, you may have different medications. There's different things that you may need that maybe you didn't last year.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you, because we get this question from viewers every year, is there anything that people can do to prevent power outages?
Well, sometimes, certainly in the sense that I had mentioned before about things that are in your yard, those can become projectiles easily. There's tree trimming that we do year round. We have a cycle of tree trimming that goes throughout our service area every several years. It's certainly in the case of, trees that are very low and close to power lines, and, maybe calling that in or working with OUC or whoever your utility provider is to talk to them about, maybe this is a little too close for comfort. Those are the types of things that you can do now. We've got a lot of technology in the field these days. We have digital meters that are constantly providing us information that maybe we didn't have. We certainly didn't have it back in 2004 when we had 3 hurricanes hit Central Florida, which was really, really difficult. But we have a lot of technology that's feeding us information. And I think that's probably good for the consumer because they may not realize all of the data that's coming into us, which helps us prioritize our restoration. We're going to always hit those hospitals and fire stations, police stations first, but we're then going to look at, okay, if we send a crew over here and we fix this area and it impacts the most number of customers, then let's send them there versus a smaller number. We're always looking at those details as far as how we push out our own crews and all the crews that we would probably bring in for a major storm from throughout the country.
So now that we're talking after the storm, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people make after a storm hits the area?
Well, I would just stress patience. I know that it's difficult. I realize how difficult it is, but I would stress patience. If you talk to anyone within our organization, certainly our line technicians, they take what they do extremely seriously. There's a great sense of pride. I've been doing this job for 11 years, and I've been deeply impressed by the people that I work with, the sense that they have. If they could, they would restore everyone as fast as they could. They would flip a switch and do it. Unfortunately, if there's thousands of trees down, it's just impossible to do that. So I would just stress the patience. We often hear stories that, 6 hours after the storm, people are coming up to our crews in a day or two. And remember, these crews work 16-hour days. So I would just stress patience. I think that's the ultimate thing. And preparing now will help you in the future. And please know that we are absolutely trying to get everybody back as soon as we can.
Unfortunately, we have done stories in the past where there are down power lines and somebody walks outside their house and they think they can handle that themselves. I'm sure your advice is don't do that, but
Right.
really, what more can you say about that? Why
Well,
should someone not try to take that into their own hands?
absolutely not. You do not want to take that into your own hands. And the thing is, most people, even people that work in the industry, can't tell a cable line sometimes from power line, a telephone. So treat every downed line like it is a live, energized power line, even if it's not. That's the biggest thing. Look at that thing like it is a pure hazard. Could be a down cable line, but call it in, play it safe, and stay away. We have, as soon as the storm is over, by the way, we'll send out. We have a number of what we call surveyors, damage assessors that come in. These are trained people from our own company, and in a major storm, we'll even bring them experts in from other companies. They'll go out immediately, eyes in the field. I mean, we're getting certain pictures and digital information back into us, but having those people in the field, because they can spot that and they can say, look, we need to address that right away, or we can tag it and say, it's not. But we let the experts handle that. That is absolutely imperative.
So is it helpful for you guys for people to report those outages? Like, does that help you get the power back on faster, or is there any like bottlenecking ever?
It's important to go ahead and report it once. It's not necessary to report it multiple times. That's a great question, because that has happened in years past where people will report the same outage so many times. And it's a little different now. We have a lot of different ways to report an outage. I mean, you can do it through your MyOUC account. You can, like I said, you can text us. You can call us, you can email. There's a lot of different technologies that's out there, but at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, we're still having a queue. We do have a lot of information that's coming into us. So we do have an outage management system, and those digital meters, we're pinging those. They're sending information right back to OUC. So we do have some more information than maybe in years past. And one of the ways that we've been able to provide proactive alerts over the last couple of years so customers are always asking for as much information as possible. So we're able to take the data that comes in from our meters and give them, estimated times of restoration, things like that for smaller storms. During a major storm, immediately right after the storm, it may take us a little while to figure out an estimated time of restoration.
So tell me a little bit about generator safety, because unfortunately, we do those stories too after a storm every time.
Yep.
And we always talk about generator safety before, but still there are plenty of stories after. So what do people need to know if they plan on using a generator?
Two things, and they're both safety related. Number one, make sure that you're using a ventilated space, because there's carbon monoxide that comes out of there. That's a very dangerous thing for the actual person using the generator. The second thing is, if you're not using a contractor to install it, making sure that you're just feeding certain appliances and you're not backfeeding the system, because you can incorrectly install a generator. It goes into your circuit breaker, out of your circuit breaker into the meter system and through the electric distribution system. That's a real problem for line technicians that might be out trying to repair down lines, because now they think they have an energized line de-energized, and a generator comes out and pushes electric load back towards them. That's very, very dangerous. We don't want that to happen. So if you don't practice generator safety, you could potentially, it's potentially deadly for you and even for our crew. So please do so carefully.
So piggybacking off of what you said earlier about being patient, will you just tell me a brief summary of what it is that your crews do? Because really, when there are storms, you guys are the true heroes. So I just want people at home to get a better understanding of why it is important to appreciate them and be patient.
Right. So there's a finite amount of line technicians in the country. So there's a couple different things that we need to bring in during a major storm. And I'll just talk about the last big one, 2017 for Irma. So we had crews come in from more than 17 states, hundreds of different tree trimmers, and hundreds of line technicians. So we have all of our crews working, and we even sometimes bring in retirees. Our entire organization is mobilized. We will, people that may have even work in, say, the mailroom, may be delivering food. We have a huge amount of people that have to come in and figure out how to feed and clothe and give these guys a very short rest period. They work 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week until the job's done. We will deploy, so we'll look at all of our substations. We have about 30 of those. Take our service area of Orange and Osceola and cut it into 30 pieces. And we'll work from the substation out. They may encounter extreme heat, certainly a lot of wind, rain sometimes. We had during Irma, we had another storm pop up like a few days later. We had restored some customers. Storm comes in, knocks out some more. It is a true dedication and pride that they have. They're very humble, but they appreciate helping people. And that is what they do. And that's their satisfaction is seeing the lights come back on and helping. It is a very, very difficult job. Like I said, a full-fledged line technician is 8 years of training. So it is a very, very labor and mentally intense job. And so they take it very seriously. They want to help everyone as fast as they can, but they've got to get home to their own families too. And so I would just say, please keep that in mind. Their families are counting on them as well.
Yes, I was just going to say, in a way, you guys are first responders as well. You are out there to put the lights back on, which we all rely on every single day. So we really, really appreciate that. And you're doing it all without the luxury of being at home with your family. So in news, we know what that's like, but we don't exactly get out there and start climbing and doing all those scary things. So thank you. I did want to ask if there was anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to include.
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I think if we can just send our customers to oec.com/storm center, I think that, there's a lot of detailed digital information that we're always trying to provide, because that's the thing. I mean, people are constant, they expect instant information. We want to give that to them. The more information they have, the better. It helps set their expectations. People will tell us all the time, if you just tell us it's going to be 3 days, then just tell us it'll be 3 days and we'll make plans for that and stick to it. And so we really do try. We're cognizant of, it's hard on people. It's always hard too, because it happens. If we were to have a massive power outage today and it's 93 degrees outside, it's really difficult. We know that, we definitely know that. And so, I think those are really the big key points is just making sure that we are providing them with as many tools as we can to get them through the storm. And a lot of that is simply information.
So there's one thing, just one takeaway. What do you guys want Central Floridians to know this hurricane season?
That every hurricane season has got to be taken seriously. We live in this beautiful place with essentially fantastic year-round temperatures. We're very fortunate. The flip side of that is we're caught up between an ocean and a gulf and potentially a lot of hurricane activity. We've seen it. I mean, last year was very, very busy. We were not hit in Central Florida, but we were awfully close. And it is very imperative that people do take the time to think about what they might need to do if it does happen, because it absolutely could.
Well, Tim Trudell, it was great to talk to you again. And thank you so much for taking the time. You are always a great resource for our viewers. I know they appreciate it as well.